Hey, what's up, everybody? BDO44 coming at you with another video. All right, so few things. First off, gotta go with what I just read. Draymond Green with the Golden State Warriors is basically looking for a max deal, and it seems like the Golden State Warriors are not giving it to him. And now they're talking about him possibly exploring other options when that time comes around. Now, I didn't check his contract situation. I literally didn't even come here to talk about that. But like I said, that was the last thing I just saw before I turned on the camera. So figured I'd react to that. First of all, that's a situation where look, Draymond is going to find out, like Patrick Beverly, like Westbrook, like all these other guys, that the market is not fair right now. This is why I turned on the camera, so it aligns with what we're going to talk about. But the market isn't in a place right now where a guy who struggled in any capacity or a guy who has deficiencies in any capacity can make demands upon max dollars. It's not happening. If you don't play about as fluid as Kevin Durant or have a game like Trae Young, if you're small, or you know what I mean, if you're not ridiculously fluid in such a way to be able to be put into every situation possible, you're not going to have a whole lot of demand right now. It just is what it is. Kevin Durant can't even get where he wants to go, and he's one of the most important players in sports. So that tells you right now that the market is not going to respond favorably to Draymond. And I honestly think he would be wise to take whatever the Golden State Warriors offer him for at least the short term. Until things clear up, he should not make any demands, because what he's going to find out is that he's going to test the market, and the market is not going to be kind. I'm just going to be completely honest with you. I know that. I don't question it. I know it. So he needs to, if anything, he needs to just get through this wave just like every other player. Get on a team and stay there for now and just get through this time, because the business of basketball right now is very much the number one thing going on. It's nothing about these teams and the way they're going to have to build right now. It's going to be with basketball first in mind, because of the way things are going with the Rudy Gobert trade having cost so much. What it effectively did was change the value of every single asset in the league, because now you have to try to keep up with that. Why do you have to keep up with that? Because of free agency negotiations. They reacted to it already. Guys got paid certain amounts based on that price tag. So you got to react to it because it's already a part of what you're dealing with. So guys don't want to move around. Guys don't want to move heaven and earth, because it takes more than heaven and earth to move. It honestly takes more than what it used to. So what brought me to this camera was something that I think I see. Now, I don't know if I'm looking at it clearly, because obviously I'm just a guy in his apartment talking. But when you look at the price of a pick right now, that is where you'll find the glitch in the system, because picks are not being inflated like everything else. Everything else has changed in value except for the pick, and that is not how that's supposed to work. If, for example, it took a pick, if it took, like, let's say, for example, you can move now in this climate, you can get a first round pick for Royce O'Neal, right? Because that's what the Nets did in response to the Rudy Gobert trade. That's what it cost to get a role player like Royce O'Neal. You see what I'm saying? From the same guy, obviously, because it's Utah. That completely negates what a pick actually is supposed to represent in price when you consider the other situations going on. For example, the Lakers are being forced to throw in 2 picks to get rid of Russell Westbrook's contract, right? Not 1 necessarily, it seems, but 2. Is that the same price for the pick over there? That Royce O'Neal's pick? Is that the same price? You know, and if so, are we taking into account that, are we diluting the price of picks, or are we increasing the price of picks based on the overall increasing value of the market? Because it seems to me that diluting the value of picks instead of increasing it. You shouldn't be able to get Royce O'Neal for 1 pick. No. Royce O'Neal's not good enough to get, no disrespect to him, of course, but you follow me. In a normal climate, you should not be able to make that trade and make it make sense. In a climate where everything's more expensive, it should be less likely you should be able to make that trade, in my opinion, and make it make sense. Even less likely, right? Unless you're diluting the value of the pick. Now you're saying that the price of the salary dump, which would be Royce O'Neal, has inflated, but the pick itself is still is decreasing in value, and therefore you're able to swap it. If I'm looking at this clearly, then that's where the glitch is. They need to fix that part of what it is we're looking at here. It should not cost as much to move picks around, or it should cost, picks should represent more of what it is that we're dealing with when you're inflating everything else. So that is what I'm looking at right there. All this talk about moving KD for 7 and 8 and 9 picks, no, that should be the opposite. Now, since everything's inflated, picks too should be inflated. It shouldn't be nothing but 2-3 picks to move. That's how I'm looking at it. Am I tripping? That's the question. I don't know that I'm looking at this correctly. Don't get it twisted. I'm not convinced. I just think I see something here. And if I'm the Lakers, I'm definitely not giving up any picks until I know what the value of a pick is in this market. That's the question I need answered. What is the value of a first round pick / swap / second round pick? All of that needs to be redefined clearly. Because otherwise, I don't know what I actually have. It's like not knowing what the dollar represents. Yes, I know I have a dollar, but like yesterday it was worth so much more than it is today, and now I'm trying to go buy something and I can't. It's like, that's what the pick is. The pick to me is the dollar in the NBA. It's your currency. Yes, when you let it hatch, if you hold on to it, it becomes a player. But, if you were talking about picks 4, 5, 6 years down the road, all it is currency. All it is something tradable that you can exchange for cap space. That's cash. So as far as I'm concerned, it needs to also fluctuate in value. It too needs to be worth a little more than it used to be. So no, Donovan Mitchell should not take 7 and 8 picks because Rudy Gobert took 7 and 8 picks. No. Or 5 picks, 6 picks, whatever they send out there. Not at all. Absolutely not. No. Now the value of picks should increase because of it, in my opinion. So this is interesting. This is becoming very interesting to me. And like I said, if I'm wrong, I'm cool with being wrong. No problem. Because this kind of stuff I don't have a whole lot of information on. But as far as I can tell, the prices of picks have not increased. If anything, it has dropped, and there's no logical explanation for that as far as I can tell. Absolutely none. So, yeah, I wanted to put that out there. See if it sticks. See if smarter people can come make some sense out of that. So, for the time being, we wait around. I've been listening a lot of talk about the Jaylen Brown situation. We talked about that earlier. You can watch my video earlier, see me respond to what I think may be going on there. But at the end of the day, with Kevin Durant particularly, it's just like, he's going to make things very difficult if he decides to hold out. Put it like that. Because as long as he doesn't hold out, the waters can start to level out as the season begins, and teams can start reevaluating talent based on what it is they see, which should fluctuate those prices to make more sense. Because right now, everyone's a hypothetical. That's the problem. We're not looking at anybody ball right now. So it's like, what is he worth? I don't know. Who knows? And another thing you find yourself concerned with, like, for example, if you're the Toronto Raptors, I'm listening to their situation. They don't want to give up Scotty Barnes because the fan sentiment is that they want to keep Scotty Barnes. I totally agree. If I'm a fan, I'm on board with that. Here's the problem. Scotty Barnes get hurt. Guess what I'm going to do as a fan? Blame you, Masai Ujiri, for not trading for Kevin Durant when you had an opportunity to. Yes, I would have been mad at you for doing so, but now that Scotty's hurt, and I know we could have had Kevin Durant on a 4-year deal, I'm blaming you. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. And that is a situation that I think he might be in, but also several others might be in, including the Boston Celtics with Jaylen Brown. Now you done already ruffled Jaylen's feathers. Clearly, his name is in trade rumors again, and clearly he's not happy about it. And you do have to negotiate with him in a year from now, a year and a half from now, whatever it's going to be. Could this be a situation that keeps him from wanting to re-up with y'all? If that's the case, will you see them maybe pull a trigger on a move like this? Will you see Kevin Durant actually end up in Boston because of the ruffled feathers? These are things I'm wondering about, because at the end of the day, even though these situations look good for a lot of players in the league, some of them are up for new re-up in 2 years or a year from now. Some guys that are not even mentioned have that same situation that Jaylen Brown does, and their teams have that same conundrum trying to figure out if I want to extend this guy, if he's going to be the type of guy I want to give that much of my cap to. What will the next cap be? And if I'm not sure, does it make sense to hold on to a player so expensive? These are things that different teams got to figure out. A team like Sacramento, their situation has changed because now they're a win-now team. So it makes more sense to have De'Aaron Fox at that amount now that you have Sabonis in place, now that you feel strongly about Murray. Barnes feels a lot. Their situation looks better. But last year, it was one of those situations where you looked at De'Aaron Fox's contract and it made no sense at all. Now, I didn't support the trade of Tyrese Halliburton, but I will say that what they did was they made De'Aaron Fox's contract make more sense. That's what they did. It took me a long time to figure out what the hell they was doing, but I get it now. They brought more stuff to him to make that timeline of that contract make sense. And so as you see that that's the type of drastic measures they've taken to make that happen, you understand how difficult it is to move a player nowadays. You understand how difficult it would be to just slot 4 years at, 200 million, whatever KD's at, into your situation. If you got to do certain things like that, for example, in Sacramento, just to make a contract make sense to your lineup. So, it's not a situation where I can just swap you in and then make you a win now situation. And that's what KD gonna have to be honest about. It's like, bro, you're too important of a piece to just slot in and then, tell the fans that they're gonna win the championship. It's not as easy as doing that. And he needs to be honest about that and what the load is that he's going to be able to take on this season and the upcoming 4 years that he's going to be playing. You don't want to be on a team that ain't too good. You know what I mean? It's a situation where you mess around, go to the wrong team, and you're going to suck. But at the same time, it's like what he needs to understand as well is you just got to get in the door in that same breath. The opposite thought of that is let them trade you for what you're going to be traded for. But understand that if they trade you for the right stuff, the 4 years itself could look a lot better in that situation. You can possibly see them maneuver certain things over time that can get you a team that maybe makes those last 2 years a champion. But if you try to force them to make a move now for you and give up certain pieces that otherwise take away that flexibility, then that situation will not actually manifest. Or you try to make them win now in the first 2 years of the contract, the last 2 years of that contract, you're going to be wanting out of that situation again. So these are the type of things you got to, weigh. It's balance to be found somewhere in between the two thoughts. And honestly, that's just the problem with the circumstance. But, the Nets have the control over the situation. All they got to do is pay Kyrie. We know all of this is going to be fine if they pay Kyrie. I was listening to Kenny For Real. He was sitting down with one of the Nets, correspondents from back east, and they were essentially talking about the whole situation. And my thing is, I feel the same way that the Nets guy does in regards to the pick. I don't think Royce O'Neal should have been traded for a first rounder under any circumstance at all. And that's what prompted me to look at the pick and the value of a pick and say, wait a minute, like, why? Why are we doing this? I listen to them and I understand that they don't, necessarily want to trade KD or Kyrie, but, if it's a situation where it's a holdout, then it's probably best for them to try to trade him now rather than let the season begin with that holdout taking place, and his value will plummet from there. So that's the thing that Sean Marks needs to be really, really careful about. It's like you saw how damaging Russell Westbrook, the insinuation of Russell Westbrook wanting a trade from the Lakers. He didn't even make a trade request. But the fact that the people were able to put two and two together with him and his agent having a disagreement and that agent releasing the statement, that ultimately took the leverage out of the Lakers' hands. You can only imagine what an actual holdout would do to KD's value in that same vein. You can only imagine. Because what's going to end up happening is at 4 years, ain't nobody going to want to take the risk, and the price tag is going to be too much to move once again. So they can't let him hold out, because what the field will probably do is let that drag out. Because they're not going to want to pay the price tag that the Nets are going to want to give up, and it's not going to be something they're going to want to settle on because it's going to be less than what they're going to be offered right now. And they need to see that part coming. You need to see that coming. As long as he's not willing to hold out, you're fine. But if KD holds out, those offers are going to come less. Less, and less. I also think it's a good chance that they pay Kyrie Irving and all this goes away just fine. And they're happy with their circumstance, because in listening to those guys talk, they were really excited about how the team looked last year. And the only thing that kept them from being good was just ultimately not having everybody on the floor last year. Now, I would beg to differ. I think what kept them from being good was having a good enough team behind everybody, thus not making them able to hold their weight without those guys. You know, if you have more talent around them, then you can withstand what you lose. But that's been my point the whole time, which is why I ultimately think those guys need to leave Brooklyn, because I don't think Brooklyn is in the business of putting around them what can make them win, despite most people thinking that lineup is. I look at the TJ Warren signing as the same way I look at all of the Lakers signings last year. If you want to know the truth, I look at his signing the way I look at all the Lakers signings last year. I look at Patty Mills as someone who's potentially about to fall off a cliff with his production. If what I saw in the end of the season was any indicator, he's not going to be the guy he used to be. But then again, I've seen him be great too. So I don't know what to expect from Patty Mills, but the consistency I do not expect. And then it just goes on and on and on. You're giving away first round picks. That first round pick trade, that Royce O'Neal trade, you gave it away for next season. You know, the Victor Wembanyama draft is the trade that they gave that away for. You can't let that happen. And then you think about the circumstances that could go wrong for you, right? How fragile your build is if you keep this thing together. Ben Simmons and his back. KD has had the Achilles. Kyrie Irving and his choices. Believe it or not, if all of those things go left, the Nets could be the worst team in the league next year. And guess what else could happen? They could have had that pick be Victor Wembanyama. I know that's not likely. I don't expect that to happen. But what I'm telling you is that path isn't crazy. That path ain't crazy. You just saw them guys get swept out of the playoffs last year. You know what I'm saying? And they gave away their first round pick for next year. I remember making a video saying that whoever got the pick from the team that could fall apart, like the Brooklyn Nets, for example, if all that, I said the scenario, and I said whoever has their pick is going to do well. I didn't realize that was the pick they traded when I said that. If anybody's seen that video, I didn't realize that's the Utah have that pick. So it's like, man, listen, after seeing something like that, this is why I do not believe KD's best option is staying in Brooklyn. I don't. Because I think if he gets traded to another situation, he'll go somewhere where people actually value picks properly. And they'll have better farm system players around him so that they don't have to struggle together, or rather do so much with so little. That was my issue with the Lakers last year. I felt like we didn't have a whole lot of talent because we were getting so many older guys that couldn't play no more. Misevaluating them like the Nets seem to be doing right now. And then bringing them in and saying, okay, stars, bring us home. Stars have been on this in the league for what, 10 years plus, each of them? Nah, their bodies ain't going to do that. And you asking Bron to play center and all that, it just was bad strategy. And then you look at the coach, you look at the players, it's like, no, the team wasn't constructed properly. They didn't get the right stuff around them. Now, this year, I feel differently. We got a lot of young talent. We made up for that. We're good. Them? Brooklyn? No. I see them having the problems we had last year, doing the things to a degree that we did last year. You know, and that Royce O'Neal trade, that reminded me of the Zubac trade. When the Lakers couldn't get things going with AD, so we made a trade we had no business making. That's what that looked like to me. So, I don't know. I mean, it's a bad trade either way. You bring KD back, and now you don't have his pick next year. So if for some reason he comes back and he says, okay, Get me something I want with that pick. Boom. What do we have? Nothing. We got Royce O'Neal. Can we trade Royce O'Neal for a pick? Hell no. No one's going to do that. Only you guys are going to do that. And that's the type of problem I'm talking about. So it's like, where's the faith? Even if I'm Kyrie, yeah, I want to get a 5-year deal from y'all, but am I going to ever be a champion with these guys? No, not unless they fix these issues. Not unless they get themselves some real talent around KD, Kyrie, and Ben Simmons, and Cam Thomas, and a couple other guys that I really do believe in on that team. They don't all suck, but it's the back and the pick equity and all that other stuff that ultimately gives you a real foundation. They're lacking. They're lacking big time. And so everybody goes say, yeah, the Nets are great. The Nets are great. I'm like, no. Look under the surface and then tell me that's really a team that can handle the big three situation that they're trying to hold on to. Obviously, they couldn't. That's why it's failed. And some will say, oh, it's the vaccine situation. Everybody was back by the playoffs except for Ben Simmons. And why was Ben Simmons there? Because they traded for him as hurt goods. Yet another decision that they made. Maybe one I would have made too. But I don't know that there's a whole lot the Nets could have did differently. They just had to be different while all this was going on. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not that I was listening to the Nets guy, and he was saying, Kyrie, KD, and James Harden were unstoppable together. If we could have just kept them together on one team, they could have made it. Yes, those three together can win. Not in Brooklyn. In a situation where you're trading picks away for Royce O'Neal and don't have any of your own picks and, you know, not there is all I'm saying. Yes, if you take James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and, of course, Kevin Durant and put them in any good situation, put them in Toronto, put them in Clippers, put them where a great GM is, wherever a great GM, Utah, put them where a great GM is. OKC, they'll win the championship. They will. What happened last year in Brooklyn doesn't happen in those places. Why? Better talent around them. Better role players, man. Trying to tell you. And nobody else will. They will send you out there, tell you to put your money on Brooklyn. You're going to lose that money. You're going to lose it. Why? No depth. Same reason why they lost to the Boston Celtics. They ain't lose to the Boston Celtics because they didn't have enough defense. They ain't lose to the Boston Celtics because they didn't have enough offense. They lost to the Boston Celtics because they didn't have enough both. They didn't have enough talent. I'm trying to tell you. They should not have been reliant so much on those stars, especially since those stars, for whatever good reasons, could not be counted on. Those are choices to put all them together. Those are choices. Choices that if you're evaluating properly, you can hedge against by making sure you have other things that help against those issues. This is what I be talking about all the time. All the time. So, yeah, man, if you follow me, this is the conversation. That's pretty much what I got to say. My name is BDL44. I thank you all for watching.